All right. Let us talk about becoming a successful board game designer.
Yep.
Elder, take it away. Tell me about it.
Yeah. This is something I've been planning to do for a long time. I had this idea about actually just writing this as an article, so it was a great opportunity to just kind of talk it out. Um,
Great.
and it's a little weird for me in that, like, I've worked on some designs over the years. Actually, very very briefly, I took a brief um, hiatus from my role at the Art Institute years ago and took you know, basically, I think it was like 3 month stint, 3 or 4 month stint. No, it must have been three actually. Working at a big toy company called MGA, where I did some designs, and one of them actually got released eventually. So, it's not
Awesome.
credited, but I do have a published design out there. But it's definitely a dream of mine. It's a creative kind of expression. I have some designs rolling around in my head right now. It's on my list of kind of goals for this year to get one really finished and ideally published. But I also recognize like my strengths in that I think I'm definitely better at supporting game design development. Like I could see myself being a really good game design, board game design producer, or like,
Right.
kind of like running some type of, collective or group, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but all that said, I've had the real honor and privilege of being, close friends with, one of the best designers in the business, John D. Clare. And,
Oh, yeah. For those who
he's,
don't know, John D. Clare did Mystic Veil,
yep,
Space Base, like Ecos, I think was his game.
yep,
Trey and I have played and played with John before and met John. I think Trey knows him fairly well as well, and
yep,
really one of the very very good designer,
yep,
very
yep.
good
And
person too.
yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things, right? He also did Edge of Darkness. His latest game is Cubitos, which I think I've tested all of these games. I've been, again, privileged to be part of his playtest group. So, I'm credited as a playtester on many, if not all, of his designs. But is just a list of things that I've observed watching him over the years. Like I was in a playtest group with him and Dave Mines that used to meet up, I think, once a month at this cafe before he had, like I think he had maybe published one like kind of light game at that point, but this was before, his kind of like big games, definitely way before Mystic Veil. But I remember when he first, I remember the first playtest of Mystic Veil. And I remember when he invented card crafting, when he, got the acetate out and he was like developing that. Like I remember like testing that with him. So it's really been fascinating. So here's a list of things that I think has, really been from the real keys that as an observer I've seen. So the first thing is consistency, persistence, right? Which I think you can kind of argue is the same thing, but this guy just never stops. Like he's always working on a design. I don't remember ever a time where he was taking a break. Usually he's working on two or three different designs,
Mm.
and he never gives up on them. Like I think maybe like I remember talking to him a while back and him saying like maybe this design I need to put to bed or put on the shelf for a while.
Hmm.
But I mean he is just absolutely tenacious and just will keep going until he works it out and doesn't seem to have any problem about it, right?
Well, it's that expression: art is never finished, only abandoned.
Yeah,
You're always iterating. You're always trying to improve. You're always trying to figure out a way. Oh, this idea that I had a way back that I abandoned. I didn't abandon it. It's still in the back of my mind. It's still
yep,
sitting there, just waiting for a chance to be reborn. Right?
yep, yep. And again, I think as we go through these are kind of like, except for a couple of very specific things, these are just kind of general keys to success in general. I think in any kind of creative endeavor, whether you're a writer or, a visual artist or, whatever it is, right? So the next thing is he's got great pitch ability, which kind of translates into sales or communication skills, right? So he's always able to kind of quickly pitch you his game. I've never sat in on a pitch meeting with him with a publisher, but I can just tell by how he pitches the game, to players, which I've seen him done so many times over the years that I know he's great in the room, and I'm sure that any publisher would be interested to have him. I think he has I don't know if it's an exclusive deal, but I think it's kind of like a first look deal with AEG. They really recognize how talented he is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's his main. I know that's his main publishing outlet. They've done most of his games.
I think they published at least 3 of his games, right?
Yeah, at least 3. I mean, Space Base, Mystic Vale, Ecos, Edge of Dark, like all these games they're all AEG games. Okay. So that's, again, I just think that's a great ability to be able to pitch.
Now, how do you get better at that? That's my question. That's my question.
Well, with all of these things is practice, right? So I actually, being a professor, an actual professor, I've taught pitch classes. I think actually with the last class that I taught at LMU actually a couple years ago was a pitch class specifically for VR projects, which was a lot of fun to do. And then I've also taught like feature film pitches, which is a great class. Oh, but really, it's just from doing it. You just do it over and over again. And ideally, what you want to do is also you want to get feedback from other, first of all, people who pitch and who are successful, who sold stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to get feedback from them. And then also it's great to get feedback from, development people who take a lot of pitches, right? Like,
yeah.
Excuse me. There's, Guy Kawasaki, the 10-20-30 rule.
Sure.
Right. He basically designed the kind of like the modern classic pitch, which so many people use. And there's been, some tweaks and evolutions over the last couple of years, but just having that solid kind of format. And there's just, just so many kind of like tips. But again, I think like most anything else, you get better from the reps. The more you pitch, the better you're going to get.
Well, yeah, it's more than just pitching, though, right? Listen, this is an area that I have a lot of experience in. Mm-hmm. My job is pitching. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of it is pitching and pitching often and pitching to people like my family knows. People that know me know. I'm pitching all the time. They're like, oh, yeah. He's going to tell me another movie idea. Oh God, please don't do it. Why? Right? Because it helps hone you. And the important thing is to find people in your life. Like what if you're not connected to any game designers or publishers or people that hear pitches?
Yeah.
Find your least agreeable friend. Find the person that, find the Trey in your life, the person that will, that is going to, see that one dark cloud on the sunny day, who is going to be able to, I'm totally joking, but because Trey's actually I have rarely met somebody as positive as Trey is about creative processes. He is the first person to leap on the bandwagon and to help you make your project better. So he is not that way at all. But for somebody starting out, what you need somebody to not just say, "Oh, that's great," not just say not just be encouraging, because you can die of encouragement if you're if you're a creative, right? You need to be able to hear people say, even if they don't know why. I don't know why, but I didn't really respond to that part of it. And it's your job to be able to start to take criticism and to take criticism well. That is a huge part in getting better at pitching and getting better at telling stories and being able to get better at explaining how a game plays and how a game works, is being able to hear criticism, not get defensive, and look at how to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that takes us into another great kind of key or kind of skill that I've observed, which is being gracious, right? So that totally feeds into like, not getting, butt hurt or taking it personal when, somebody has a criticism. This is not to be confused with being humble, right? Because, I also recognize that John is like, he's very confident, like he knows he's a badass game designer, but the way he is about it is like, it doesn't occur like there's a lot of like ego there. Like he could, like, again, how many people, dream of like having this type of success where you have all these games and not only are they published, but they're actually like very recognizable games, kind of like inventing a whole new, kind of mechanic in the space of games, right? Like, I mean, he could have like a super big head about it, and he's completely the opposite of that, right? Like he, again, he recognizes that. I think that he's a great designer, and it's always just about the work, the work ethic. And I, one of my favorite kind of moments with John was we were at Strategicon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was some people playing Mystic Vale, or somebody, the young girl who just bought Mystic Vale, and she spotted John, and they were like, you could see the whispers, like, oh, that's designer right there. And they bought the game, and they're like, oh, could you sign our game, sir? And John was like, oh, sure. And just the way he was about it, like how he was with her, it was just like, man, that's just so cool, man. It's just great. And again, I just think that translates across the board. People wanting to work with you, to do business with you.
I think that most of the game designers that I've gotten to know are that combination of confident but also very approachable, and you're right. It's not humble, but they're open, and they're a little self-effacing. They're not totally. They love what they're doing. They feel like they've achieved a certain level of confidence in what they're doing, but they're open to hearing other interpretations of their work, because that's what's going to make them better. I think of people like Tim Fowers, and a lot of the big game designers that I've met. But Tim is an interesting guy because he's also in the John D. Clare world of, he's got a stable of games that he's made, and there are a lot of hits there, and he's kind of created his own sort of mini brand for his games, which is really interesting, and then you have Martin Wallace.
Right.
Who I love, but I'm a sucker for British curmudgeons. That's my thing. That is my thing with it, without a doubt. That's great. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I feel like I might be sidetracking you, and I don't want to do that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the next thing is that he's always testing. So he's always testing his designs. He's really great at managing the play tests. One of the things that's like super impressive to me is like, typically, like, again, if you're at like a Strategicon, or if you're at a game night with some friends, right? Or, one of the events that we go to that's like an all day, like SoCal Games Day or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's playing published games, finished games, right? Rarely do you see anybody pulling out a play test. Like, usually play tests are specifically for like a play test event.
Right, or playtest groups and so on and so forth.
Or playtest group, right, where other designers are playing other games, right?
Yeah.
John has the amazing ability to bring out always has his games with him.
Sure.
And will pull his games out, and because he's great at pitching, and because he's so gracious in these other things, get people to play his prototypes at a game where everybody's at an event where everybody's playing published games. And I've seen him do it so many times, right? Like, I've done it. I've been like, oh, yeah, I want to play that, instead of some published game, which I think it's amazing. I've never seen anybody else do that except him.
Yeah. Trey does that.
Yeah.
Trey does that. He's one of the only people that I know that actually does that too. To the point where he'll bring it to our game night and be like, all right, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off by playing this. And Everybody groans
Right.
because we're awful friends. We're just horrible, horrible people. But guess what? We play the game. We give him the notes, and he moves on. He's got several playtesting groups, I think, but definitely
Yeah.
a main playtesting group that he plays with. But I totally agree. I've heard him say it's important. Like, you can get so much feedback from a playtest group, but you have to branch out. You have to be introducing it to different people that have never played that game before, people that don't know your design or your design style, because that's the public, right? That's what's out there.
Exactly, right. Which brings us to our next point, which is an incredible level of discernment with the player feedback, right? Like, I feel like this has been one of my fatal flaws where, I think the game design that I got the farthest with, and again, we've all been in the same playtest group, actually, me, Trey, and John, and Dave Mines is in that group, or was in that group at one time, and the game I was designing was I called it Master Magician. So it's basically the Prestige, and there was another movie that was similar to that at the same time.
The Illusionist.
Was it The Illusionist with the guy that played the Hawk that one time?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called The Illusionist. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yes, Paul Giamatti was in it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's like it's that time era, and you go from being a on the corner parlor magician with card tricks on up to these grand illusions, right? I was heartbroken, right, when Tricarion came out after a year or two after I was developing the game. It felt like I was getting close, and I just couldn't bring myself to work on it anymore. But
now, let me. I don't want to distract you, but
yeah.
Do you design theme first? Because I know that there are people that find an interesting mechanic, work it out, and then figure out the theme that best fits that. But you seem to come from theme first. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very, very much thematic, in my designs. I always start there, and then try to figure out the mechanics as we go, right? But one thing I did with that game, I felt like too much, was every time I got player feedback from the test group, I would make pretty radical changes in the design to address that feedback, right? Every single time. What I've witnessed with John over the years is he always asks for feedback. And another thing that he does as far as play testing is, like, he will, like, if there's enough players, he will just watch everybody else play the game instead of play the game himself, which I always had a hard time doing. I always wanted to play the game. Like, I find it very difficult to just watch people play. But he's amazing doing both.
Yeah,
right?
but when you play your own game, you're kind of tainting you're kind of tainting the sample size, right? A little bit, right? Because you're showing them. Maybe you're maybe showing them how to play the game in a way that may not be in the rules, or there may be other forms of emergent play that would come out if you weren't there telling people what to do.
Yeah, and also, again, from the viewpoint of the designer, it's always about, and this is true for any game, whether it's analog or a video game or digital or some other type, right? It's all about the end user experience. So you, as the designer and the kind of inventor, scientist, really need to have your attention on that end user, and, like, watching their facial expressions and kind of like what they say as they're playing the game, and taking in all of that information. And so he's great at that, but also, like, what really blows my mind is that he is super clear, like any great film director, right?
Yeah.
When people play the game, he always asks for feedback at the end, right? But then of course, people always want to make suggestions, right? Well, if you did this, or you should change this, and then he's very, like, so super clear and like, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'll think about that. No, that's not what I want. Like, I mean, without hesitation.
Yeah.
And that's just an incredible skill, I think, to have.
It's
Right?
so important. I mean, okay, so not to distract again, but
Sure, sure.
I I teach a graduate screenwriting course,
Yeah.
and what most programs do is the grad student writes the screenplay, and then they send it to the professor for analysis, and then the professor sends them notes, and then they rewrite based on those notes. I don't do that. What I do is I have them all generally over the course of the year they write a screenplay. I have them do something I call super drafting, which is they have an entire screenplay by October. And then they read each other's, and each one of them writes up a one-page list of here's the log line of the project.
Right.
Here's what's important to me about it. Here are the things I don't want to change. Here's the things that are the key elements for me about the story. Here are the questions I have. Is this working? Does that work? And so on and so forth. So that what we do is we have Zoom calls where we have pitch sessions, and each of the other people in the cohort in the class will pitch that person how they would rewrite their project. But without that first page of notes that they get from that person,
Right.
they might be pitching them things that are entirely unhelpful to that person because they don't know, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Is not this type of note, this type of change to my game, this type of change to my screenplay will not be helpful to me. Here are the areas that anything that I don't say is the focus of it. All of that can change, and I find it's one of the trickiest things for creatives to do is to find that sweet spot between rejecting too much feedback and being locked into something and not letting it breathe and not letting it become its best version, and being too permissive of feedback to the point of sabotaging your own growth of your project.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's fantastic, right? And which actually you just reminded me. I've been meaning to pitch you and Matt an idea. So there's one more thing I want to do on this, and then we'll come back to that. Okay.
Wait, you're going to pitch online? You're going to pitch right here on the podcast?
Yeah. I'm going to pitch you something.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But just to tie this conversation up, there's one last thing I wanted to mention, which is the quality of his prototypes. So again, if you go on any type of like board game design forum, a lot of times the advice is just quick and dirty, just, get a first pass done. Don't care about the art. You're going to be making changes, blah, blah, blah. And I think to a certain degree, that's accurate, right? You don't want to over design your prototypes because again, they are prototypes and they are going to change.
Yeah.
But, John Clare brings a level of craftsmanship and invention to his prototypes that I have rarely seen with other designers. I mean, it is just incredible how he invents kind of like, little boxes and these little towers. And again, he's always also like, thinking about innovating in the space, right? Like he recognizes that, there's a ton of similar product in the market. And if he's really going to stand out and get his game published, he knows he's got to come up with something different, a la, this concept of the card crafting that he invented, which I think is just, absolutely incredible. And I know, other people, I don't think you can copyright these things or trademark them because that would just be kind of like a legal nightmare, I think. But, I just think just having it out there that he's done that, and now that other people are considering it or emulating that, I think is an amazing accomplishment in and of itself.
Well, as to the quality of prototypes, I mean, Trey has said several times that he sometimes errs on the other side, right? Sometimes he designs way too, like he'll spend all his time printing up the custom cards and this and then the other thing, and he makes beautiful, beautiful prototypes of games that by his own admission might not be ready for beautiful, beautiful prototypes yet, right? It's like sort of like he's making the beta version of a game that's still in alpha.
Right. Yeah, and it's a pitfall that I think you could have as a designer, which I think he does it perfectly. Like I know he's taught himself Illustrator,
Hmm.
which I'm super impressed by. Like he just was just out of necessity. He makes these kind of beautiful rule books, before they go to the publisher. So all of these assets, I know when he actually goes to publish and actually the publisher hires an artist to actually do the final art on his game, he's either kind of created some stuff himself, or he's really great at finding found images online, like for cards and stuff that kind of match up with what he wants the final product to look like.
Hmm.
And then that gives like an abundance of reference for the artist when they actually do the final art on the game.
And I gotta say, here's the thing: I think that Trey, though he says that he sometimes has spent too much time, making the art really nice for these things that are still in alpha state. I don't think he's wrong. I think at the end of the day, I mean, his career has shown, with the Situation Room and things like that, that
Yeah.
his attention to detail, to the way something looks and the way something feels is so crucial. And when he brings these things out at at game events,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look like an alpha prototype. It doesn't look like, just playing cards with things pasted on, but it looks like a professional production. He's
Yeah.
getting many more people trying it out, right? He's getting
Yep.
many more people playing it, even if it's not as polished as he's going to end up wanting it to be because of, and he's really, I mean, you've seen our
Yeah.
LARPs. You've seen the amount of work that Trey puts into the cards and the elements of our LARPs, and it's
Oh, yeah.
astonishing.
Yeah, yeah. I remember actually Trey ribbing me a bit about my Master Magician game because I had the board on like those giant size post-its, the like kind of yellow with lines on it. I had the board drawn on that kind of crudely, and I remember, and I had it like I never well I don't know if I ever did the board or not. Maybe I did later on, but I just remember specifically. I never forget it. Trey was like, "All right, Elder, this is the last time I want to play test this game on this crappy piece of yellow paper." So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. And again, I hope this is useful to all of the kind of fledgling designers out there, or any kind of creative endeavor. I think if you take these kind of elements on, I think you will be a better artist and just generally more successful in whatever you're up to.
I love it. I'm gonna recap. You said
Yep.
persistence and
Yep.
consistency, which is don't stop. Don't
Yep.
stop. Even a design that has failed, yes, shelve it, put it away, but keep it in the back of your mind because you never know when the next thing you see, the next thing you read, the next thing you play might bring that back to life in a different way. Second thing, develop your communication skills. Always be pitching. Always be iterating, talking to people about the things that you're doing, and getting better at getting people excited about the things that you're excited about. Testing, test, and test in uncomfortable environments. Test with people that may not be quite ready for your test if they're willing to. Be gracious. So important as a creative to be confident, but not to be shut off to good and valid criticism and good and people. The best things in the world. There are some people that say, "Yeah, I didn't like it." I didn't like it doesn't help me, but if they tell me why they didn't like it, I might just find a way to make something much, much better. Um, Spend the time to make quality prototypes, but pay attention to what level of design you're at, where you are in the design process. Yeah, and use discernment with player feedback. Know enough about what the core of your design is, so that you can change what you need to change, but maintain that forward progress. Does that sound like a lot of what you talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple more things. Again, always look to innovate.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's always that level. If you want your design to stand out and you want to be published, the game publishers are always looking for the next big thing. And then finally, always your design is really about players playing the game. So as you're testing, as you're developing, keep your focus on the player experience.
Love it. Love it. Oh, that was a great segment. I think that we probably have a bunch of people out there that I don't know. I don't know too many people that play board games and don't, in the back of their minds, think that maybe I have something that I would like to design as a game. This is a great list of, and a very positive, very encouraging list of qualities that you want to engender in yourself in order to embark on this journey, which is awesome. Shall we get to a game sommelier?
Well, before that,
uh-oh,
you ready for my pitch real quick?
Okay, hit me.
All right. So I got this idea, right? Again, I'm always thinking about content, right?
Yeah.
As an extension of Game Brain, again, you and Maddie are these brilliant writers, and I think a lot of people in the group, Trey, myself, are pretty good at story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think of, I don't know what the log line is, but basically, like, what if we had somehow some content? I don't know if it'd be a graphic novel. I mean, eventually it'd be really cool to be an animated show. I don't know. But basically having the Game Brainers basically be in a virtual world where we would kind of be LARPing our different gameplay experiences.
Wait. Say that again. I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. So
yeah. So there was a game. There was a show early on. It was what do they call it in World of Warcraft when you're a group? Oh God, it was like the party or something. Sandra Day from Buffy the Vampire Slayer created it.
Oh, yeah, the Guild.
The Guild, right? So basically, Game Brain meets the Guild, right? So each one of us is a character, right? we do the voices, we do our personality, and we play these games where basically you could LARP the whole thing out and you basically see the whole thing. Like, again, an example could be if we played a pirate game, right? Can you imagine, like,
oh my God.
Dimitri being like a pirate in a pirate game, like all of us, right?
The problem is that I already do that, and I annoy the heck out of every single one of our game group.
Yeah.
So, oh man,
but I think it would be wildly entertaining, though, right?
Oh, like, hugely. Yeah. That is very interesting, dude. We're gonna have to talk offline about that. Okay. That is an idea, man. That would be so fun.
And Game Brain fans, if you want to see this show happen, or graphic novel or something, then tell us about it. And
ladies and gentlemen, that was great pitchability combined with persistence.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.